Hi there, I'm Hobo, your typical Kate main, and I've got some very important things to share with you about Dead by Daylight. There are three very popular traditional beliefs about Dead by Daylight we've all perpetuated that simply are not true and have been negatively affecting our attitudes and enjoyment of the game. Whether you're a new player looking to start the game with a winning mindset or a veteran player suffering from disillusionment, the information in this video will help you enjoy your game and improve your game. Dead by Daylight is unlike any other game we've ever played, so it was only natural we would carry mentalities that helped us in our past games, but now those same mentalities are hurting us and interfering with our ability to understand and enjoy Dead by Daylight. I've been guilty of perpetuating some of these myths myself because I didn't know any better, but now it's time to shine some light of understanding into a fog of tradition. I'll tell you what we've been wrong about, how it's hurting us, and how letting go of those wrong beliefs can benefit our enjoyment and improve our skills. The first popular belief is that Dead by Daylight is a toxic game. Remember that match where you got macro clicked by a flashlight, kebabbed on first hook, camped to death, and then teabagged? Of course you do. Those games really sucked. This game is so toxic. Why? Just look at any forum post. It's all negativity and complaints and gripes about bad matches with bad players. So how could I say Dead by Daylight isn't a toxic game? Well, consider this. Memories are formed and cemented when a strong emotion is tied to them. We could play 2, 5, 10, 20 fine matches where nothing terrible happens, nobody's BMing, it goes as expected, and either we say nothing or we leave lobby with a simple GG well played. There's no strong emotion tied to that game, so 20 games could go by and sort of just blur into this generic fuzz where we don't really think about it or remember it because, nothing really notable happened to stir us up. But then that bad match happened. We can still feel how indignant we felt when that totally uncalled for, unfair thing happened. Our emotions and our memories are designed to highlight and remember the times when we felt something strongly. I've been cataloging and recording all of my games to see if my memory was playing tricks on me, like I figured it was, and in the last 150 matches, only 2 are marked as toxic. And according to the calculator on my phone, that means that about 98% or more of my games were wholesome or unconcerning, and only 2% were toxic. And yet, I can still tell you exactly how the toxic matches went, and the other 148 sort of blend into my memory. They didn't really create an impact or a strong feeling. As far as negative social media posts, this is where strong emotion plays another part. When someone's feeling angry and frustrated, they're much more likely to go vent and make a complaint. But if you're having a decent match that went well, you're more likely to just do something else or queue up for another game. And so, no matter what game or activity you play, social media is almost always just having more negativity than what the game actually has inside of it. And that isn't even to say that someone who makes a negative post is a negative person. It just means they were in a negative mood when they did it, and they might have went on to their next 50 games and just been in a fine mood, for all we know. So once we realize that the player base is more inviting than it seems to be on the surface, it makes it easier for us to be friendly, and that makes our games less toxic, and that creates less toxicity simply by just realizing there never was much toxicity to begin with. I have made more friends and had more positive interactions in DBD than in almost any other competitive team game I've ever played, which brings us to the next popular belief about the game that is just dead wrong. Dead by Daylight is a competitive team game. I've talked about this just this week in my Anarchist Survival video, so I don't want to spend too much time on the topic right now. Let's just reiterate that the game technically refers to other survivors as just that. Other survivors. They are neither encouraged nor discouraged from playing like a team unless they choose to do so. Even the description of Dead by Daylight says survive together or don't. And in-game items like keys and perks like self-preservation and soul survivor remind us that sometimes someone's only priority is their own survival, and that is completely okay. We have kept calling players bad who make decisions that aren't team-oriented. Well, it's not a team game. They're not obligated to that play style, we just sort of expect it. Funny enough, back when I used to play League of Legends, there were players who insisted League of Legends was not a team game, despite it being the team game. You know, there's always going to be a minority in every player base that wants to call an apple and an orange and refuse to see the game for the way it really is. I've even accidentally called survivors teammates, and it's just, I think it's a bad habit that if we all break it, we're going to be much more mellow and happy and have more fun when we see people not act like a team. The point of the game is the end of the game. We refer to winning as either escaping as a survivor or killing other survivors as a killer. I mean, that makes sense, right? Those are the things that end the match. And in every other game, the end of the match was always the point of the match. When the last player dies in Counter-Strike, the scoreboard doesn't care how it happened. When the Nexus falls in League of Legends, it doesn't matter what happened before that. When the match ends, there is a clear outcome, a clear winner, and a clear loser. Dead by Daylight is not so clear about the outcome. That is not a malfunction of the game, it is a feature. Living and dying are smaller components that tie into a larger theme, the annihilation of hope. The game is more like a musical than a sprint. What happens before the end is actually more important than the end itself. When you play as killer, the entity wants you to help it feed off of the hope of the other survivors. If you bring an ultra meta build on Nurse and get 4-man slug at 5 generators, the survivors didn't have any hope of escaping, so there's no hope to be eaten. You will safety pip or depip because you didn't actually win. This will confuse and anger a lot of players. They'll say, why is the game punishing me for winning? Well, you didn't win. You merely thought that getting kills was winning, but in actuality, winning is when you give hope and take it away. This is actually a very healthy mechanic for the game. DBD relies on a lot of casual players in its base, so this encourages players who get really good at the game to give themselves their own challenges. Lilith Omen, for example, is a cracked Blight main who plays with just Barbecue and Shadowborn so as to give himself a challenge and give the survivors hope. If he were to bring a Mambo Jumbo, Ultra Sweat, Ultra Meta build every match, most of the games would be very stale, boring, and you would get an entity displeased at some of the matches. This is why you can win a game with 1 kill by giving yourself a huge challenge, but you can lose a game with 4 kills by giving yourself no challenge at all. The same goes for Survivor gameplay. If you get really good at Survivor, your job is to fight and struggle to maintain hope. If you bring too many big guns every match and you don't have a challenge, you don't need hope, there's nothing to maintain, there's no struggle, so you can't win as much pips and blood points. Dead by Daylight, unlike any other game we've ever played, is all about what happens between the beginning and the end of the match. The start and finish are just bookends that holds together what happens in between. Once you realize this, you can have purpose and enjoyment in playing off-meta things that you find really fun. Pay attention to your pips and your blood points, and you could be surprised how much you can win by quote-unquote losing. To really drive home the point that the game is about creating and overcoming challenge, just look at the Archive and Rift challenges. Some of these almost require you to throw the game to achieve, in a traditional sense, such as the Clown's self-deprecating joke archive. These archives are clever writing prompts, giving us inspiration to create our own objectives and our own challenges to pursue during a match. If you fight valiantly and die, you will be rewarded with pips and blood points. Strive heroically as the antagonist and give the survivors a difficult match, and you could win pips and blood points for even a single kill if you gave someone a large hope of escape and took it away at the very last second. If you could free yourself from only focusing of the game in terms of the end of the game, start noticing the game encourages you to do this, and you can have so much more fun and a lot more incentive to give yourself fun challenges and different objective scenarios. And you won't tilt as bad if the end doesn't go your way, because you realize the end wasn't what made you win or lose.